by Dennis Rodriguez from Manhattan and council member Bob Jackson from Manhattan as well. I also want to welcome Stephanie Glendale from Citizens Committee for Children, Jim Purcell from Council of Family and Child Care Agencies, Nigel Powell, a social worker from Brooklyn, Bureau of Community Services, and Deborah Washington, a parent who is currently receiving preventive services and is also a school crossing guard in her community. We'll be... I just been told that we are being joined by the man of the hour who we were waiting for, the public advocate, Bill. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who's joining me today. Unfortunately, once again, we rally to call on the administration to restore the proposed cuts to preventive services. Restoring the funding for preventive services is the wisest investment that the city can make. These services are in our communities, providing families with the basic resources, the support, and the strength to make it through the toughest times they are seeing. In the midst of a grave economic climate that we are in, working so hard to overcome, it is critical to maintain this funding now because preventive services are proven to keep children safe and in their homes, and it's proven to keep families together. Simply put, we cannot afford to lose over 3,000 prevention slots, which is more than 25% of our current system. These services have been proven that they're cost-effective for our city. When we fund these types of services, we also get a match from the state, which we are facing to lose if these cuts go through. But most importantly, we risk the children's safety, and we also risk spending more money in the future if we don't invest in these services now. Because these services, again, have been proven to be cost-effective for our city by keeping families together. It is cheaper to provide these types of services than to put children in foster care. We have many advocates with us today. We have my colleagues in government who will say a few words towards the proposed cuts, but I want to open the floor and invite Public Advocate Bill de Blasio to share his comments on this fight that he has long been leading with us.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here. This is a decisive moment for our city, and we have to stand up for our children. So you are showing with your screenless numbers how much you care, and you're telling the people of New York City that this is a moment to stand and be counted. I want to thank Annabel Palma for her extraordinary leadership of the General Welfare Committee. So to understand this issue, you have to think back to the tragedy that occurred at the beginning of 2006. It was just, sadly, the most famous tragedy. It was by no means the only one. When Nix Mary Brown died, the city galvanized, the entire city came together and understood how important it was to protect our children. One of the amazing things that happened from that point on, more and more people started calling in what they saw. You know, we talk about when it comes to terrorism, if you see something, say something. Well, every single day, we have to say what we see when it comes to our children. And people started to do that all over the city from all walks of life. They started to call and say, there may be a child in danger. They didn't do that enough before Nix Mary Brown. But if you want evidence that her life was not in vain, she didn't die in vain, you'll see that people started calling and they kept calling and they kept calling, and to this very day, they have kept calling in record numbers. And that is so important to this discussion here, because that means there are more and more families that we've actually identified who are in need, who are in danger of breaking down to the point that there actually may be violence, that violence may affect a child, and that violence might even be fatal. So we know, in so many more cases than before, we know who the families are. We know who the children are who are in danger. And we have a way, in so many instances, of stopping child abuse before it happens, and that's preventative services. That's what so many of the people here do. It's incredibly noble work. It's incredibly effective. There are very few things that government does or government supports that are more effective than these preventative services. Because each time you pull a family back from the brink, you keep a family together, you could be saving the life of a child. I don't know what is more important or noble than that. And let's just take a moment to thank you. So what does this mean, this proposed cut? 3,000 families by definition in need, families in which a child could be in danger if things continue to fall apart. 3,000 families could not have this support and this help. If I told you even one of those instances might result in the death of a child, you'd say, like any New Yorker would say, let's find the resources, let's find a way to help that family, let's not lose that child. That'd be true for one family. You say it for 3,000 families, it becomes so clear. This is something we must be committed to. So it is a tough moment. And if you want to ask people, well, what are we going to do? Where are we going to find the revenue? Or what cuts we're going to make? We have to have that conversation. All of us who are elected have to make those choices. They're never easy. But we can say with absolute integrity, some things need to be off limits. Some things need to be sacred. Preventative services is government at its best. It's helping people in need. It is the best money we will ever spend. And we must save it now. Thank you.